I got my black belt from Zangi and Professor Prace's first black, I opened up a program at Erie Community College that we call the Kempo Arnis Self-Defense Program. And we were able to put it up for credit, academic credit. So you could take 4 courses that I wrote out, and each course carried 1 credit hour toward graduation and transfer credit. So if you took my course, you got transfer credit in a physical education department, or you got eventually 4 credit hours towards your associate's degree at Erie Community.
Yeah, which is really cool. And actually, I know that's probably the first accredited martial arts program in the States. It might still be the only stick-oriented martial arts program that you can get credit for. There are a few colleges, I've tried to look this up, there are a few that have martial arts as something you can take as like an elective for credit, but there isn't any like modern Arnis Filipino-based accredited systems that I can find. But he still did it first, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think Norwich University up in Connecticut has one for the ROTC program.
Okay.
And that was put together by a woman named Lisa McManus. And she trained under Professor Priestis as well.
Okay.
And I've heard there was a Blintellock program somewhere in New England, but I have not been able to find it. But if it is, then that would be the only Blintellock program being taught anywhere for academic credit. So that's assuming it's up and running. But yeah, we did the first one.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why he was able to get that is not just because of his martial arts prowess, but his educational background and where he's at in academia, which is still really cool. So why exactly do we call you doctor? You mentioned you're doing a doctorate, so what are you a doctorate in?
My doctorate is Doctor of Education, and I got it in Social Foundations of Ed from the University of Buffalo. So it's a real academic doctorate.
Nice, and it's probably one of the best ones you could have for something like this and trying to spread the word of martial arts to people. Because teaching martial arts is a very different type of skill that some people I think don't have as well as they should. And so having the academic background to also just know how to teach and how to formulate a concise program from point A to point B and know where you're going, that is amazingly awesome.
My big concern was and still is that a lot of people take a martial arts program, they go through it, and they're good at what they do, but they never learned how to teach. So part of what I was doing was taking my students through and at the same time helping to learn how to be teachers of martial arts. So I would start them off and get them going, and as I found someone who seemed to have a knack or a desire to teach, then I would assign that person a single student and say, okay, teach this person trapping hand movement. And then I would evaluate the student and how well they were able to do the trapping hand. Then I would go back and take who I was calling the tutor and evaluate the tutor and say, okay, you did this well, but they can't do such. So we need to fix that. Now, what were you showing them? How were you trying to show it to them? And we'll go back over the program that the tutor was using and refine it. Because my belief is that the more you teach, the more you learn.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about memorizing the stuff. It's about actually being able to understand it. And when you have to teach it, you have to get really into the depth of the art. You can't just go through the motions.
Right. You can't be good just one time. You gotta really, really know it.
And you've also got to adjust. As a teacher, you've got to adjust some of your lesson to meet the different ways in which people learn.
Yeah. And
some people are real good. They can watch it and they got it. Other people, they literally have to do it over and over, and then all of a sudden something clicks. Okay, now they're there. Still other people, you can just describe it to them. I want you to do this, move your foot here, put your foot there, do this, do that, and they'll just kind of walk through it, and then all of a sudden, within, a few minutes to a couple of days, they can do it. It's just there are different ways to learn this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important for a person who's teaching, not just be able to demonstrate a technique, but be able to fully explain every different aspects of it. Because I've had a lot of instructors who, mind you, are really good instructors, really good at what they do, but sometimes they leave out these little details that make that technique work the way it works. Like maybe I put my foot in a certain way, or I pointing my toes, or turn my hips. Little tiny details that make a huge difference, and you have to be able to articulate those and be like, hey, I just need to do this, because you may not have seen that whenever I was doing it.
Yeah. And the other piece is, when you're teaching, in order to get that lesson across, you have to go back and literally figure out each little step in the progression. You've got to find every little subtle piece that's in there so that you can explain it to your student, particularly the ones who are verbally oriented and who need you to explain what they're supposed to do. Some people can just watch you and they got it. I had one student we nicknamed the sponge, because all we had to do was say, go over there and work with that guy. And then he'd come back and he could mimic that guy. I mean, mimic every little detail, even the way he was someone to hold her hand. He had it.
Nice.
Now, if you asked him to explain it,
Oh yeah.
no. So I put him with a partner who I called my analyst. He could not have done what Richard did. He could not have picked up that thing from just watching and being there. But the minute you asked him to explain, he could tell, oh yeah, well he took that from such and such, that's called, or we call it this or whatever, and then that's how he would put it together in his own mind, and then he could do it. But just to watch it, no, he's lost. He's lost. He's got to work his way through it step by step by step by step.
Right.
And it's just two different ways of learning.
Right. I think one is auditory learning and visual learning.
And visual learning.
That's the terminology.
Right.
I do know stuff. I'm only an economist, though.
Well, I'm sure there are economists who do the same thing. There are economists who can look at something and almost visualize what's going on.
Right.
And then there are other guys who got to look at the numbers, the paperwork, the flow chart to put it together.
Yeah.
So, I find that the key to teaching is to be as open and flexible as you can possibly be. There's no single way that people learn, and there's no single way that even you learn. Some things you'll learn faster by doing it. Other things you'll learn faster if somebody walks you through it step by step. And then there's the whole business about your body. How does your body move? And what are your strengths and weaknesses?